Hey guys, welcome to Honey, We Need to Chat.
Where we believe when communication dies, bad things happen.
Here's a clip from our podcast.
Let's get chatting.
Honey, we need to chat.
I would just say that, the biggest thing to talk about before anything else is probably the orgasm gap.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say.
And our survey was specifically of religious women, evangelical women. And so we had an orgasm rate of 47 points, by which I mean that 95% of men almost always or always reach orgasm in a given sexual encounter compared to just 48% of women.
Wow.
So that's a lot of women who aren't having very much fun. Now, when you look at other surveys that aren't as much in the religious context, there's still an orgasm gap. It's not quite as large, but you're still looking at about a 30, 35 point orgasm gap.
And then I think the thing that happens is this gets translated as, well, women just don't want sex. Men do.
They're not as
and women
interested,
don't. Well, it's like, it's women want good sex.
Yeah.
Like,
They don't want that kind of sex. That's the problem.
Non-orgasmic, disconnected, not emotionally close sex. No, they're not interested in that. And frankly, as guys, we should ask the question, well, why are we into that? Because that's a whole other podcast, probably.
Yeah.
But I'm always amazed at the lack of curiosity. I want her to want sex more. Well, but she's not enjoying it, and you're not doing anything different to make sure she does enjoy it. You just are now telling her she should enjoy it so that she'll want it more.
Yeah, like we asked
works.
both men and women in different surveys, does he do enough foreplay? And in marriages where she frequently reaches orgasm, over 90% of men said, yes, I do. I think it was like 98% or something.
Yeah.
And about 88% of women said, yes, he does. So, even when she does reach orgasm, 12% of women are still saying he could do more. He could do more. But they're giving him good marks. But when she doesn't reach orgasm, 71% of men and 52% of women still say that he does enough foreplay. And so you have to kind of ask, enough for what? Like, why are people saying it's enough if she's not having pleasure? And I think it's because a lot of women have internalized the idea that we're broken. So, if sex isn't working, it's because I'm not sexual. And he kind of figures, well, yeah, like I'm trying, but she just doesn't do anything for her.
And a lot of that comes back to what we started at the very beginning. What is sex? I mean, even the use of the word foreplay, it's not a word that I particularly like, because the implication is this is the stuff you do before the real stuff.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is that penetrative sexual intercourse is a really good way biologically to stimulate a man, but it's not the optimal way to stimulate most women.
Yeah.
And so if we really want to make sex great, we need to think of it as the whole event and not have such a focused, priority on that one part of it. And if we took all the pressure off, and we just said we're just going to enjoy each other and it goes where it goes, I think a lot more women would be able to relax and actually enjoy that. And of course, it would be a great experience for both of them.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, because you don't orgasm as easily as I do in this particular sex act, you're not sexual and I am.
Yeah.
Which when we put it in those words, you realize how ridiculous it is to say that. But frankly, that's what society kind of pictures. Like the movies, you see what happens in movies. It's they start, and then bang, and then it's all happened and everyone's amazing.
Yeah, and everybody enjoys it and it's perfect. Yeah.
That's not reality. That's not the way that,
I've sometimes wondered what it would be like if for exercise sake, men just had to enjoy sex without orgasming for a while. Like if it would change their approach to it, because I feel like if the tables were turned and the woman every time, it was pretty much guaranteed every time you're going to have an orgasm, you're going to enjoy it. And then they had to like navigate, but my partner's not really enjoying it that much. I feel like if you're having that pleasure all the time, it'd be really hard. You have to be really intentional to take your mind out of that and be like, oh, actually, maybe they're not enjoying it as much as me. And I've sometimes thought, how interesting for experiment's sake would it be to see how it would change things if for a month or something like that, every time you did it, the guy didn't get to have an orgasm, but the woman had to, and that was how you went about it, and see how that would change people's approach.
I think that would actually have, that would definitely give you a whole other appreciation of the process. You know what I mean? Like, because, and that was one question that I had for you. So again, as a guy, and knowing how a lot of guys are in this scenario, in this area of their relationship, you know, we can be very selfish in the bedroom. We can be very selfish in terms of, and not necessarily intentionally, but just in terms of, again, that understanding of our partner and what their needs are to have that same experience that we have. It's a lot easier for us, I feel. And so to hear all of this, like, oh man, this is fantastic. Again, it's helping me with that lens. But I can also see the other side for a lot of guys where this could be quite overwhelming information in terms of, man, I am one of those guys that, you know, may not be pleasing my partner as much as she would like me to, or whatever else. So hearing all of that could be quite overwhelming. What would you say to that guy? Like, you know, where's the hope in that situation?
Yeah, like the thing is, you can decide to do things differently, right? Like you can turn the tables right now.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to keep going the way it's going, but it does take risk. Because if you start addressing her needs as well, it might mean that you don't get sex as often as you were before, because she's like, no, I matter now. And it might take some time, you know, to figure things out, but isn't that worth it? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think the other element of it too is, you know, what are we looking for in sex? Because another thing, we're talking a lot about the difference between men and women and how men and women approach sex. And one of the things that a lot of times we're socialized, I think, is that the physical side of sex is for men and the emotional side of sex is for women. And so, you know, I've even heard people say that men just want quickies and they don't want emotional connection. They just want the release. And women don't really care about that. They just want to cuddle and be close, you know? And I think that's not I think a healthy view realizes that sex is a physical and emotional experience for both people. And so, you know, if I'm in a relationship with this person and I'm finding this something that's easy and I'm enjoying it, but she's not, like, emotionally that should matter to me.
Yeah.
So, you know, as hard as it is to say, you know, if we're in the middle of things and you want to stop, I'm going to honor you and let you stop and still hold you and tell you I love you. And I'm going to go have a cold shower or do whatever I need to do. Right. Because I care about you. I think showing that you really respect and want this to be a good experience for them. It's not just it's not just, you're not just saying it, you actually believe it. Like a lot of guys are in the mindset you were saying earlier, you know, like, I wash the dishes, I do these things because they're trying to earn sex from their wives, as opposed to seeing sex as something that flows naturally out of a healthy relationship we're both building on. And I think having that mind shift as a guy, instead of seeing sex as a transaction, seeing it as a way of connecting. Because then if we're not connecting emotionally, if we're just connecting physically, then we're not really fully connecting. And we need to work on that.